two players. The blue Terran, in the lower right, it is LemonyTang. And now, in the lower left position, as the red Zerg, we do have Jamesykins. So, this is going to be the first map of a best of 5. Do make sure you let us know in the chat who you think is going to take this. Of course, in the Team Liquid thread, we saw some heated debate about what was going to happen. Whether it was going to be a 3-0, whether it was going to be a 3-1. Most people seem to be siding for Jamesykins, but I think LemonyTang could be doing an awesome job. So, let's take a little look around this map. Both of these players know where each other are. It's only 2 spawn spots. It's very easy to say where you're going to be. Going up, you do of course see that, hey, the natural base is relatively okay to hold. You've got a long rush distance by ground. That's not something to really worry about. You've got a nice easy base there. In terms of third, we should actually be seeing Jamesykins take the third to the north of his natural. It's where most players choose to go, whereas LemonyTang will obviously take the closer third base. That's the normal way people play it. Some Zergs do like to take the close base as well. It depends on their overall playstyle and what they're going to be doing. Now, in terms of long-term strategy, of course, we're looking at Heart of the Swarm. So the standard Wings of Liberty metagame applies somewhat, but it can switch out fairly quickly. So from LemonyTang, we should be seeing something along the lines of a quick command center, be it a command center first, which he's going for this game, or a 1-Rax command center are really good openings. The follow-up tends to be, again, a factory with a reactor, but with Widow Mines being introduced in Heart of the Swarm, it can be really potent against Zerg players. It's especially good if you're going to just try and pick off quite a few Zerglings earlier on and really just try and hold a nice defensive position and just really gain control of the map. And that's something that I hope we'll see LemonyTang try to utilize. Meanwhile, for Jamesykins, not much new for Zerg before Lair Tech, to be honest. Hydras obviously can now play a big role in every matchup due to the increased speed upgrade and just their general utility. With Swarm Hosts as well, getting the missile attack upgrade is a lot more viable as well. So maybe we'll be seeing some kind of Roach Hydra, maybe some Swarm Host play. Hopefully we'll get into the really later game situation where we get to see Vipers and obviously the new Ultralisks, which are very good against Terran players. So for the moment, things are going exactly as we would expect. We've got down there straight away that, well, it's a hatchery, it's a command center, both gearing up for later gameplay. No kind of cheese, no early harassment coming out for the moment. And in this sort of best of X series, it's something that we'd definitely be expecting. In game 1, neither player, especially when this is quite a big setting for them, obviously neither of these players are professional gamers. They do it as a semi-pro level, so being on this big stage is obviously really good, so make sure you do support them. There's been tweets out where you can follow them on Twitter and everything like that, so make sure you check it all out through the ESET account. Now, I'm liking this bunker placement at the moment from LemonyTang. He's getting it down in quite a nice defensive position, just in case something was coming at him. He's got good scouting information. If we take a look at his vision, he's seen the bases, he knows that there wasn't any gas when he went in there. There's 2 gas obviously up and running now, the Roach weren't coming down, but there's no real risk of a Baneling rush or anything like that. All Jamesykins has to decide is, am I going to be taking my third base or am I going to go for some 2-base aggression? And generally speaking, this Roach run does indicate that maybe I'm going to try and poke and prod at you. For LemonyTang though, he's getting up that factory, he's getting up the reactor, he's got the double gas, so it looks really, really similar to Wings of Liberty at the time being. But of course, the decision, as I mentioned earlier, that LemonyTang has to make is, do I go for Widow Mines or do I go for Hellions? Of course, Jamesykins getting those 3 Roaches out is actually quite an interesting spot for him. It's, well, now up to 7 Roaches, so he's going for a 7 Roach aggressive play, and now up to 10 as well. My goodness, Jamesykins is definitely wanting to end this game with some good early aggression, and this is a really big commitment, getting those 10 Roaches out quite so soon. We do see the Hellions coming out for LemonyTang, but with only Hellions, you're not going to do that well against Roaches. Even though we do have the starport on its way down, and we do have the tech lab, which suggests that the follow-up for LemonyTang is going to be going into some Banshee. The fact of the matter is that Roaches do very, very well against Hellions, and as we're seeing, there's a good number out here. The Hellions are going to just walk straight over, and when LemonyTang sees this, it's going to be a bit of a bad moment for him because he's suddenly going to be thinking, oh dear, I've got to get back. He needs to defend this very well, but he does only have two Marines on the field. So with 2 Marines against what is 10 roaches, it is never going to be too easy to hold. The SCV's getting pulled back. You need to try and hold this as best you can. Another bunker coming down on the top of the ramp, and basically LemonyTang knows that if he holds this, he's going to be in an okay place. So here we go. We have got straight away the reactor getting focused down, just trying to stop those widow mines coming out, because of course if they do get burrowed down, it would be a nice spot to be in. It will help you take out some of those roaches, but in come the SCVs getting pulled down, trying to get us around, but of course the Hellions are just melting to the roaches, but the Banshee getting out just in time. Now of course the Banshee will manage to hold all of this and will kill it all off. It's just how much damage Jamesykins can do before that point, and as we're seeing, a good number of SCVs are getting killed already. We've got 13 dead. That's the 14th. The Hellions are going to go down as well, potentially, but the Widow Mines did help deal with that, and as a result, LemonyTang is still very much in this game. He's been knocked down quite considerably in his work account, but he does have that Banshee out, and if we go back over to Jamesykins' base, we can see that we do have some Spore Crawlers on their way, ready to defend against this Banshee. Jamesykins also taking his 3rd at a very, very nice time. He's put on the aggression, now knows he needs to drone quite heavily, getting out an awful lot of drones ASAP, just to try and really maximize this advantage he's got economically. So due to that, he's going to be in a comfortable spot moving forward. He just needs to make sure that these Banshees don't manage to do too much. The 2nd is on his way, and yeah, we've got this 3rd base under a lot of pressure. There's no anti-air other than the Spore Crawlers, so they can move down, but potentially Jamesykins is going to lose this 3rd hatch. And even though he's done a lot of damage and this Hellion is trying to come in and pick off some drones, basically Jamesykins is a long way ahead economically, and as long as he stays that way, he should be fine. Even if he loses this hatch, which he may do just with the Banshees being microed very nicely here, that, to be honest, Jamesykins, he's got a drone lead, he has got a good worker lead, but a nice transfuse comes down there, another Queen coming out, and actually, wow, Jamesykins holding that hatch is very, very nice there. Obviously the macro hatch coming down in the main base, as we can see. Now the Banshee's forced back. There's a good number of Spore Crawlers around, a good number of Queens, and Cloak isn't going to be even that helpful. LemonyTang is taking a risk. He's taking his own 3rd base. He's building it down on the low ground there, and it is exactly what he needs to be doing, because if you're behind economically, you have to take risks like this. The worker count at the moment is 37 to 67. The Widow Mine placement here from LemonyTang is great as well. Just means that if a Speedling run by comes through, they're going to get taken out quite comfortably. Widow Mines give you so much more utility. They give you so much more zoning control before tanks come out, and that's something that a lot of Terran players are really enjoying and are using in order to take a quick 3rd base. So this medevac is loading up with some Hellions. The drop gonna be going down towards the main base, and due to the fact that there isn't actually any spines in there, it could do some nice damage. There's only the 4 Hellions out, which are at the 3rd of Jamesykins, and while there are 12 more in production, he's got us spotted, and it seems that he has already. He's rallied quite a lot of those roaches up towards the main base, so he knows what's coming, and as such, this should be a really easy hold, and this isn't going to do the damage that really LemonyTang will want it to. So, in come the Banshees and Hellions towards the 3rd base simultaneously, and the medevac using its boost ability very effectively to come down into the 3rd. Going to get quite a few drone kills here. A Queen gets taken down as well. This is really good harassment play out of LemonyTang at the moment. He's pulling back. He's done the damage that he knew he wanted to do. He's picking off that Queen there, and of course, by knocking out the Queens, he's just meaning that these 3 Banshee are going to be able to do some more damage. They're doing a very effective job of picking off the remaining Queens. A good transfuse goes down there, though, from Jamesykins, but of course, still 2 Banshee remain. 1 goes down. With 1 remaining, the transfuse on the hatch will make sure that it does stay alive. Of course, we do see, though, that Jamesykins has taken his 4th. He's also sitting there, well, as we can see for LemonyTang, he's sitting there with a very large force going into very little in terms of defense. There's basically 1 Widow Mine sitting there defending the 3rd base, and a huge number of roaches, but we are going to see the roaches get hit by the Widow Mine. Of course, Widow Mines don't do enough damage to kill a roach outright, but the lift goes off with very quick reactions from Lemony right now, and he's trying to do some damage, trying to use those Hellbats in order to be a little bit stronger against the Roaches. And of course, with the Banshee there, they will eventually die, but it's just how much can they do before that? And it would appear that an awful lot is being done already. Lots of SCVs are dying. The Widow Mines are trying to do anything they can, but as we can see, the Banshee's just chipping away. 28 SCVs have already been killed this game so far. We've got some Speedlings following in as well. The Overseer there just to deal with the Widow Mines. The tanks up on the high ground are doing a nice little job at just preventing any further pushing up in towards the main, defending quite a few of those SCVs. But looking at the worker count, it's 74 to 40. Jamesykins has nearly finished his hive. We don't see yet any sign of a Spire, and that basically means that it's more likely going to be straight into Ultralisks. There is the, obviously, Infestors coming out now, so with those additional Infestors, with the Ultras, which we now just see that Ultralisk cabin starting, just means that, hey, we're going to be relatively good in terms of my late game composition when I know you don't really have the resources to deal with a large Infestor Ultra Roach composition. Now, in terms of the fourth base, it is now getting saturated by Jamesykins. He's got 12 drones coming out as well now. He knows he's done good damage. He knows that he's ahead economically, and he's just really, really focusing on that. He's making sure that he's getting up. He's up to nearly 90 drones now to the just over 50 of LemonyTang, but LemonyTang is in a good defensive position. This tank placement up on the high ground is very nice. He's making sure that he's using this Viking very effectively to pick off Overlords, try and do any damage he can, and that's something that's always a good move. If you've gone for that Starport, make sure you get that Viking down, because you can just run around, catch any Overlords that are on the map, and get some free Overlords, which is always fun. We do also have now the Drilling Claws upgrade coming for the Widow Mines, which basically allows Widow Mines to burrow a lot faster. It's really the late game transition for Widow Mine play that you need that if you're going to be really walking them forward, burrowing them under the army to make sure that they do some good damage. We also, of course, for Jamesykins, have the Ultralisk armor upgrade coming down. He's getting some spines in the main as well. I think that's a really smart move when he's seen his opponent already being thinking about dropping, and as we're seeing now, these Hellions are dropping into the main, so the spine crawlers will finish up, but we will see quite a few drones get taken down before that point. The Ultra popping as well is going to come back around, going to try and deal with this. Of course, the Hellions are going to do their best to get away, get down into the natural, but the Roaches coming up will put a very quick shutdown to this harassment play. But good work by LemonyTang. He managed to get a couple of drones. He's trying to delay things as much as possible, because from his perspective, the longer he delays, the longer he keeps himself in this game, the closer he can get economically, and that's really being reflected by the harvester count. It was previously about 80 to 50, it's now 80 to 60. Obviously, catching back up with the mules as well, that's going to be helpful. We do see the double tank drop in the main base here now as well of Jamesykins, and this is doing a surprising amount of damage. It's picked off both the spine crawlers. One of the tanks does go down, the queen is going to fall as well, but this is really quite relentless harassment from the Terran player. And now Jamesykins is dealing with these Cloak Banshee in the middle of the map, but needs to be careful not to lose any of those Infestors while engaging them. Of course, army size-wise, they're both, well, Jamesykins nearly maxed out on an awful lot of Ultralisks. Upgrade-wise, he's sitting there with a +2 attack, +4 armor. Meanwhile, for LemonyTang, we do have the +2 vehicle weapons, but no armor upgrades. So the upgrade advantage heavily here now for Jamesykins, who's pushing in. He's bringing those Ultras around the side, going to engage straight head-on with those siege tanks, cleaning them out very quickly. Of course, with the upgrade advantage, those Ultras are doing very nicely. There's still a lot left, but with the Thors popping out, Jamesykins just taking a bit more of a conservative approach, pulling back, making sure he's got the infested support, making sure he's got those queens there ready to transfuse. A lot of infested Terrans coming down now as well in order to soak up that damage. We see the third base getting absolutely decimated by the Zerg player right now. There's nothing, no drops, no counter pressure coming in behind this, and yeah, as we can see now, LemonyTang, he's having to pull back, he's having to retreat. The tank on the high ground and really backed against the wall is allowing him to just hold off a tiny bit longer, but we're looking at a worker count of 77 to 55. We've got a Zerg player who's already got Ultras out, his greatest Spire is in production, and he's taking a 5th base. So when you're in that sort of situation, you know that you're a long way ahead. You can afford to buy your time a little bit just to make sure that, hey, what else can we do? What can we make sure that we get in there? What can we engage? And this is the engagement that he's decided to go for. He gets complete around with all of those ultras, with all of those zerglings. He's just getting straight in. He's cleaned out a lot of the tanks. A good pickup by LemonyTang with that Thor, getting it back into safety, trying to get the most out of his units that he can. But there is just so many ultras still here. A couple are starting to fall now to the Thors and siege tanks. And with this, maybe LemonyTang is going to be able to hold for a bit longer, but the third base is under a lot of damage, even though it's trying to fly out. A few more SCVs getting taken down. This one tank up on the high ground is doing such a hero job right now. 24 kills on it, so definitely getting his money's worth out of that. We do see LemonyTang also trying to take another command center. He's got to do that in this situation. He's got a lot more coming down, trying to make sure that, hey, I've got to try and stay in this game. I've got to try and keep my economy going. Therefore, I've got to make risks. I've got some money in the bank. I can afford to go for these command centers. So we've got Jamesykins with a couple more units on the field. He's getting out those corruptors. The Broodlords will be hitting shortly. He's running those speedlings in, trying to clean out the tanks because they're one of the biggest threat right now. And yep, up he goes. He's going to try and engage as best he can. He is going to try and hold, but Jamesykins just has such a large force right now. The SCVs are trying to repair that Thor. LemonyTang really pulling out all the spots he can, but infested Terrans getting thrown up onto there, getting right next to that tank. Will pick off one of the few remaining tanks, and still though, Jamesykins is going up against a very turtled Terran. And when you are this turtled, when you do have those two siege tanks up on the high ground, it is very difficult to engage with the ground army alone. But of course, there's Broodlords coming. And once you get Broodlords out, you know that you're going to be able to break that siege line. And there's nothing tanks can really do against that. The Thors, even though they do have high impact payload now, which makes them a little bit stronger against single air targets such as Broodlords, it's still not going to be enough. There's not enough Thors. We do have the +3 ground armor coming down, as well as the +1 flyer attack for the Zerg player. And all in all, when you compare that to LemonyTang's upgrade, which is just the +3 weapons, there's a solid upgrade advantage for the Zerg. There's a solid economic advantage at what is 78 drones to 39 SCVs. Even with mules, that doesn't help. There's drops trying to go down everywhere they can. Thors coming in, trying to do a little bit of damage, trying to pick off anything that they can get. We have, of course, the Banshee still there, the 5th base as well, trying to do a little bit. But Jamesykins, he's expanding everywhere. He's running around with these Broodlords now that are coming in towards the 3rd base. And LemonyTang has done a good job holding on, but unsieging the tanks is something you've got to do against Broodlords, because otherwise you're just going to shell your own units. The Hellbats are going to do a valiant effort in order to hold off these Broodlings, but as we can see, the fungal growth hitting. Good use of the high impact payload on these Thors, just trying to pick off these Broodlords as fast as possible, but with a good number of speedlings streaming in from the side. As we can see, the GG has been called, and Jamesykins takes game 1 of this